Morning to all the participants. Let us start our day 3, session 8. And today's resource person is Dr. V. Satish Kumar sir, Associate Professor from EC Department from Madras Institute of Technology, Chennai. And the title is Deep Reinforcement Learning. I request Professor G. Nilavati from EC Department of Mahindra Engineering College to introduce our resource person of this session.
So good afternoon to all. I, G. Nilavati from the Department of ECE, Mahindra Engineering College. Welcome all for the session 8 on Deep Reinforcement Learning by Dr. V. Satish Kumar, MIT, Chennai. Sir, Dr. V. Satish Kumar, Associate Professor from the Department of Electronics Engineering, Madras Institute of Technology, Anna University, Chennai. Sir has completed his UG from Bajrang Engineering College in the year 2005. Completed his PG in the stream of Applied Electronics from Thandai Periyar Government Institute of Technology, Vellore in the year 2007. And PhD in Engineering Design from IIT Madras in the year 2014. Sir has received a patent in the title of Device and Methods for Determining the Elemental Identity and Analysis on Moving Target from a Variable Standoff Distance. And Sir has received funding from various agencies like Sir has received an amount of 23 crore 11 lakhs from UGC funded university with the potential for excellence in the area of biomedical engineering and instrumentation for the title Automated Biomedical Device Development for Commercialization with the development of automated antibiogram cum pathogen identification device. Sir has received an fund of rupees 2.227 crores from Department of Horticulture and Plantation Crop through TANI scheme of Tamil Nadu government for the project titled Design and Development of Internet of Things Enabled Portable Soil Nutrient Measurement System. Then Sir has received an amount of rupees 17.82 crore from the Tamil Nadu government under TANI scheme for the project development of semi and fully automated intelligent exoskeletal and prosthetics for disabled communities. And also Sir has received an amount of 48 lakh 79,000 from SERB for the title Identification and Ranking of Mineral Deposits under High Pressure Condition using Laser Induced Breakdown Spectrography Technique. And Sir has also received an amount of 50,000 from Anna University for the title Dynamic Gesture Recognition Based Precise Positioning of Robotic Arm using Field Programmable Gate Array. Along with this, Sir has supervised many student-funded projects for and received an amount of rupees 1 lakh from Anna University as well as Tamil Nadu Council, the TNSTCT. And also, Sir has published many books in the title of High Performance Ensembled Convolutional Neural Network for Plant Species Recognition, Precise Recognition of Vision-Based Multi-Hand Signs using Deep Single-Stage Convolutional Neural Network, Condition Monitoring of Industrial Insulation Material using LIPS technique, Design and Implementation of Human Safeguard Measure using Separable Convolutional Neural Network Approach, and Analyzing Convolutional Net Depth for Deep Face Recognition. Sir has developed an optomechatronic system design and embryo system lab at MIT Madras Institute of Technology, Chennai. Sir has published 50 plus his research work in peer-reviewed journals and international level conferences. With this brief introduction, I welcome our guest Dr. V. Satish Kumar for this session. Sir, kindly taken over the session, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your introduction. Is the screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
Okay.
And also it's audible too.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Very good afternoon to all the participants of this AICT Atal FDP on artificial intelligence enabled sensors and networks for 5G wireless communication. So organized by Mahindra Engineering College. So today I'm going to talk about reinforcement learning. So before moving on to this topic, let me just give a little bit of introduction about the reinforcement learning. So here this technique is suitable for a particular subject where it doesn't know anything about its environment. So for example, something like if we land into an island separately without any persons, so we don't know about that island. So we need to do some exploration so that we can identify from where we can get the food, from where we can get the water. So we need to do some exploration and then gain knowledge. So such type of learning methodology is called as a reinforcement learning methodology. So it has a lot of applications in healthcare, robotics, banking sectors, etc. So here, if we see the main methodology behind reinforcement learning, we have an agent. So agent is something like a subject, which is going to experience the environment. So the agent is going to give some actions, or it is going to make some move. An agent is going to make some move based upon the current state. So the current state comes from the environment. So here if you see, I have an environment. So in the environment, what is my current state? The agent's state. Depending upon that, the agent is going to make an action. So this action can lead to achieving the goal of the agent, or it might not lead to the goal. So depending upon whether the goal is achieved or not, a reward or penalty system is introduced. If the agent's action results in reaching a goal, then a reward will be given to the agent. If the action performed by the agent is not going to result in reaching a goal, then a penalty will be induced. So thereby, our agent is going to keep on exploring the environment. It needs to do a lot of exploring the environment before exploiting the environment. So this is the basic concept behind your reinforcement learning. So we will discuss this in much more detail. So with this introduction, I will go to a fundamental concept called as machine learning. So machine learning, it is a subset of your artificial intelligence system. So what do you mean by artificial intelligence system? We are going to write a program and which is going to act in a smart way. So what is that program? So program usually it runs in a CPU. So we are going to write a program which gets embedded into a CPU or GPU or TPUs. Thereby it is going to do some intelligent operation. So what the program should have, it should do sensing. It should do sensing. So sensing in the sense, it needs to take some parameters from the environment. It needs to get some environmental parameters. Based upon that, it can reason it, why the parameters are like that, whether anything should be changed to reach the goal. So it should make a reason. After obtaining the reason, it should act on it. So if I want to change some parameter, what I should do? So it should act, and then it should get adapt to a particular situation. So this is what we call it as an artificial intelligence system. So basically we are going to write a program which can do these operations, something like sensing, reasoning, acting, as well as adapting to a particular situation. In artificial intelligence, we have a subset called as machine learning. So in machine learning, what we do, we have algorithms whose performance gets improved as it is exposed to more and more data. As I start giving more and more data, the model keeps on learning many things. As it keeps on learning many things, then it can make more right predictions. So that is why our machine learning requires a huge amount of data. So when the model or a machine is exposed with a large amount of data, it gains its experience. Thereby, it tries to make a prediction in an efficient manner. So there is again another subset of machine learning is your deep learning. So deep learning is mainly the same thing where our machine is going to learn. So here the machine is going to be in terms of a neural network. So we have a multi-layered neural network which learns the data. Depending upon the learning of the neural network, it is going to make a prediction. So if we see the basic definition of machine learning, it's an application of artificial intelligence which makes the computers to predict the outcomes automatically without intervention of a human being. So the machine needs to make its own decision on its own, and the decision should be more appropriate to the situation. So we have three major types of machine learning. One is supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So supervised learning is something like a relationship between a teacher and a student. If the teacher tries to teach the student, if the student, if he doesn't understand the concept properly, or if he has wrongly understood the concept, then the teacher tries to correct those concepts. So such type of learning is called as a supervised learning. So in supervised learning, there is going to be a supervisor. So if the machine makes any wrong prediction, then the supervisor will try to correct it. So if the supervisor has to correct it, then the supervisor should have the knowledge of what is the data. So the input data, it comes with the labels. It should come with the ground truth value. So if the input data comes with the ground truth value, then only if the machine makes a wrong prediction, the supervisor can be able to correct the machine. So that is the important criteria in your supervised learning. The second type of learning, which is unsupervised learning. So here we have data alone. There is no labels. There is no categorization. We have only the data. So here, what the machine will do is, it will try to group the data based upon some similarity. It can say, these data are having some common characteristics, so it can be grouped together. Or other words, it can also follow an association property. Association in the sense, for example, when a person goes to a supermarket to purchase a bread, then the person has a high probability in purchasing a jam, butter, or cheese. This bread is closely associated with jam, butter, or cheese. So the data is related. So we can form a relationship between a data. A relational database can be achieved in a supervised, unsupervised learning. So in unsupervised learning, we don't have the ground truth values, but what we can do, we can find some patterns in the data and group the data together based upon the patterns, or we can form the association between the data. Depending upon that, we can group the data. So today our topic is reinforcement learning. So in reinforcement learning, what we are going to do is, we don't have any data at all. So our machine is going to be exposed to a new environment. Our machine is going to be exposed to a new environment, and it has to learn by itself. It has to take an action. Depending upon the action, whether it is a right action or wrong action, it will receive the reward or penalty. Based upon that, it will try to gain the knowledge. So such type of learning is called as a reinforcement learning. So the basic difference between these three major types of supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning are: in supervised, as I said, the data will be given with their ground truth values, because once the machine makes some wrong prediction, we need to correct it. So we should know what is the ground truth value of the data. By doing so, we can determine the relationship between the input and the output. Whereas in case of unsupervised learning, we find the association or pattern in a given data. We try to find the association between the data, or try to find the pattern in the data. So here the data is not going to have any ground truth values. In case of reinforcement learning, the agent interacts with the unknown environment and gains knowledge or experience through its action. So here the agent action comes with a penalty or a reward. Then this is regarding the definition of the types of machine learning. What about the type of data? In supervised, we use a labeled data. In unsupervised, we use unlabeled data. In reinforcement learning, we don't have any data. Predefined data is not available. Supervised learning, it is mainly used for two problems, classification problem. So classification in the sense we can categorize the data, something like cat, dog, or digit recognition, alphabet recognition. So like that, we can do a lot of classification problem, or we can do some regression analysis. So regression analysis is something like we can predict a real-time value. A quantitative value can be predicted. Something like what will be the price of a house in the year 2025. So we know what will be the price of the house before 2021. Based upon that, we try to make a prediction what will be the price of the house in the year 2025. So here we have something like a quantity is estimated. In case of unsupervised, we have major categories. Association. Association is how one data is related to another data. Depending upon that, we can group it together, or we can do some clustering based upon some features. I can take some color features, I can group the data, I can have some texture features, group the data. So like that, we can do some clustering based approach. Whereas in reinforcement learning, we use a reward based approach. If the action performed by the agent is going to move towards the goal, then we have a reward. If the action performed by the agent is not going to result in achieving the goal, then we get a penalty. What is the approach? Here we map the labeled inputs to the known outputs. In case of unsupervised learning, we try to understand the patterns and discover the output. Here in reinforcement learning, we follow the trial and error method because we have to do exploration. While doing exploration, we have to move in different path and we have to find our destination in a trial and error basis. In case of supervised learning, the output is directly feedback. If the machine makes any wrong prediction, we can correct it. So there is a feedback mechanism. Whereas in unsupervised learning, there is no feedback. We can just group the data. We don't know whether the grouping is right or not. If the grouping is wrong, we can't correct it. So there is no feedback mechanism. Whereas in reinforcement learning, it is depending upon the reward. If I have a high reward, then the action taken earlier is more suitable for the current situation. There are different algorithms in these three types. We have linear regression, logistic regression, support vector machine, k nearest neighbor, random forest, decision trees, naive Bayes. So like that, we have many algorithms in supervised learning. In unsupervised, we have k-means, c-means, a priori algorithms. In reinforcement learning, we have Q-learning and SARSA algorithms. These are some of the algorithms. There are few more algorithms are there. So we will try to discuss about this Q-learning and SARSA algorithm in today's lecture. So the major applications of each technique is risk evaluation. What is the risk factor? Prediction of risk factor and forecasting the sales, how much the price of the house will go in the near future. Whereas in unsupervised, we can recommend a particular solution, anomaly detections. In reinforcement learning, it is used in self-driving cars, autonomous vehicles, gaming environment, in healthcare, banking sector. So many applications are available. So now we will move on to our topic, reinforcement learning, which is a feedback-based machine learning technique. It's a feedback-based machine learning technique. So here we have an agent. So the agent, if I take a robotic application, the agent can be a robot. So it takes two things. One is it takes the state and reward. So state comes from your environment. So what is the current position of the robot in that environment? Whether it has made certain actions earlier or not. If it has made some actions earlier, what is the reward it has got? So such information it tries to take, the agent tries to take. Depending upon the current state, it tries to make an action. So when the agent makes an action in the environment, the state of the robot changes. The state of the agent changes. So we have a next state. ST plus 1 is the next state. And for that action, we will get some reward. Whether that action is highly appropriate or not appropriate. So we get a reward. So like this, we need to do multiple number of times until we reach the goal. So here in reinforcement learning, an agent learns to behave in an environment by performing the actions and seeing the results of the action. For every good action, agent gets a positive feedback. We call it as a reward. Each bad action, the agent gets a negative feedback called as penalty. So our primary goal is to improve the performance by getting the maximum positive rewards. We should find a solution of reaching a goal where I try to get maximum possible rewards. So before moving further, we should know certain terminology in reinforcement learning, because I will explain a case study. In that we try to use this terms and all. So we need to know what is an agent. So agent is an entity which performs action in an environment. For example, in a gaming environment, player 1 is an agent. Same way player 2 is another agent. So which is going to make a move in an environment. Entity which performs action in an environment to gain some reward. There is an environment. A robot is going to move in a certain environment. Same way, a player 1 is going to do some operation in an environment. So the condition which an agent has to face is called as an environment E. Reward. An immediate return given to the agent whenever it performs the correct action or task. If the agent performs a correct action, then he will get a reward. It's immediately he will get that reward for an action. It's not a long term, it's a short term. Whenever an agent makes an action, it will try to get a reward. It's an immediate return value. State, yes, is nothing but the current situation written by the environment. What is the current state of that agent in the environment? Whether it is in center of the environment or it is at the left side or right side. So here I talk about the state as position. So like that we have many other parameters. Same way we talk about a policy. Policy is nothing but a strategy applied by the agent to decide the next action based on the current state. For a current state, the agent is going to take the next action. So depending upon what policy it is going to take, whether we are going to consider a large reward, based upon the reward I'm going to take the next step, or I'm going to take my next step randomly. That is nothing but a policy. On what basis our agent is going to make an action, that determines the policy. So it's a strategy applied by the agent to decide the next action based on the current state. Then we have another parameter called as value V or Q value. So both are somewhat similar to each other. What do you mean by value? Value is something like a long-term reward. So we have already seen a reward, it's a short term. For a immediate action, it gets a reward or penalty. In the long term, if I take 4 or 5 steps, what will be whether the 5 steps are correct or only 3 steps is correct, 2 steps is wrong. So we try to value our propagation. So it is something like a long-term return with some discount. Meaning is, it need not be the correct path towards the goal, but some way 50% I might have propagated properly and remaining 50% I might have taken a wrong route. Or I might have taken 75%. in a proper direction, and 25% I might have done something wrong. So like that, we try to expect a long-term return. Same way, the Q value is also similar. Only difference is while computing the Q value, we also take into account the current action parameter. What is my current action? For that action, I might have taken previously many actions. Right now, I'm taking some action that leads me to somewhere. And this is also an additional parameter which will be considered for my value, long-term return. So these are some of the terms which we try to use in our reinforcement learning. So there are three major types of algorithms, reinforcement learning algorithms: value-based, policy-based, and model-based. Value-based is something like we already know about the parameter value. So value is nothing but expected long-term return. So for our reinforcement learning, the value should be large. V parameter should be large. If V parameter is large, then on a long-term scale, our algorithm is working properly. If the robot has to propagate something like 10 kilometers, it is doing efficiently. If the robot is going to propagate only for some 2 kilometers properly, then it's a short term. Within short term, our algorithm is not going to perform well. Whereas in case of a long term, if it performs well for a long term, then we will have a value, large value. So value function V needs to be maximized. So we should have a long time. Our algorithm should work better. So here the agent is expecting a long-term return of the current states under certain policy. Second one is policy-based. Policy-based in the sense, as I said earlier, policy is something like a strategy applied by the agent to decide the next action based upon the current state. So something, whether I should take, for example, let us take, we have a robot in a particular location. It can move in 4 directions. North direction it can move, south direction it can move, west direction it can move, same way east direction also it can move. It has 4 options. So by policy, for example, policy 1, I need to move along north direction. Policy 2 states it has to move along south direction. Policy 3 states it can take any random action. It can go to north, south, west, or east, something like that. So now I'm going to check depending upon which policy is more appropriate so that my robot will reach the destination. Whether I have to choose policy 1 or policy 2 or policy 3. So that is called as policy-based reinforcement learning. So a policy needs to be formulated such that the action performed in every state will result in attaining maximum reward in the future. There is more chance that I should reach a goal. For that, which policy is more appropriate? That policy needs to be utilized. So that is called as policy-based reinforcement learning. So first one is value-based, is depending upon the value, long-term value. Whether a particular algorithm is going to result in a long-term value, then I have to choose that algorithm. In second case, policy-based, which policy is going to yield me a better solution? That policy we need to take. So this value-based and policy-based are model-free algorithms. It's a model-free reinforcement learning algorithms. Whereas we have the third type, which is model-based. So here we need to create something like a virtual model. If I give an input to a model, what will be its output? What will be its next state? So we know the current state of the model. We give some inputs. What will be its next state and what will be the reward, everything. So it is something like a mathematical representation can be created. So a virtual model needs to be created for each environment, and the agent learns to perform in that specific environments. So in terms of policies, we have 2 types of policies. One is on policy off policy. On policy, in the sense the agent learns the value function accordingly to the current action derived from the same policy. Currently, one policy is being executed, right? Some policy is being executed by the agent. In that policy itself, we select an action so that I get a maximum V value. That is called as on policy reinforcement learning. We have an off policy reinforcement. Off policy means I have many policies. Each policy will try to give me a particular solution. Now the agent has to find which policy will give me a better value function. If policy 10 gives me a better value function, then I have to choose that policy. So the agent learns the value function according to the action derived from the another policy. So here in on policy, we have the SARSA technique. So SARSA in the sense state, action, reward, state, action. Then there is another technique called as Q-learning technique, which comes under your off policy. So let us see about SARSA algorithm: state, action, reward, state, action. So we try to take the current state, do some action. Depending upon that action, we get some reward, either in terms of a positive reward or negative reward. Positive reward is good, negative reward is something like a penalty. So now the agent changes its state, and for the new state, we try to take again an action. So this keeps on going. So this such type of algorithm is called as a SARSA algorithm. So the maximum reward for the next state is not necessarily used while updating the Q values. Instead, the new action and the reward is selected using the same policy. So we have a policy. Within that policy, we try to find an action. Which action will give me more reward? That action will be selected. So we are not going to compare with the different policies. SARSA algorithm is a on policy. In that case, in a policy, we have certain steps. Each step will have certain rewards or penalties. So we try to select an action which has a higher reward. So such type of action will be performed in the SARSA algorithm. So we need to update the Q values depending upon the current state of the agent. Current state of the agent, we take it as S1. And what action the agent is going to do, let us take it as A1. So current state of the agent is S1. What action the agent is going to do is A1. Depending upon that action, it might get a reward. The agent might get a reward R, and it will change its state to S2. S2 is the new state. After the action is performed, the agent enters into a new state. And in the new state, what action the agent has to do? That is A2. Depending upon this 5 parameters, we try to update our Q value. We create a table. Depending upon these 5 parameters, we try to update the Q value. The hyperparameters in SARSA algorithm are, so any deep learning algorithm will have some hyperparameters. Hyperparameters are nothing but the tunable parameters. By tuning the parameters, we can get a very good result, or high performance metrics can be obtained. So here in SARSA algorithm, we have different parameters like learning rate. So learning rate is the agent is going to take an action, it is going to get a reward or penalty, and it needs to update its knowledge. It needs to learn. How often it needs to learn. Whether it is going to take a recent information and it is going to do updation, or it is going to take a long time for updation process. So it determines to what extent the newly acquired information overrides the old information. So it lies between 0 to 1. So 0 means the agent, it does not learn anything. 1 means agent considers only the most recent information. Any value in between, it will take little bit information from recent as well as from the longer duration. There is another parameter called as discount factor or gamma. So this is something like once a goal is reached, for example, if the agent starts at a particular point, it reaches the goal. It should not stop at that point because that path might not have been a shortest path. It could have been a longest path. So it has to do multiple number of times exploration. It has to perform. After doing lot of exploration, it should come to a conclusion that which path is the shortest path, and for future operation, it should follow the shortest path. So this discount factor gamma, it determines the importance of the future rewards. So 0 makes the agent to be opportunistic. 1 means it will make it strive for a long time reward. So 1 means it will try to explore more. That is what happens in your discount factor. Same way, initial condition, we have a Q value depending upon your state, initial state and action, initial action. So this initial state and action is very, very important. If in the initial state, we should allow our algorithm to explore. If it doesn't explore, then we might not get many possibilities. So we should have an initial condition such a way that the exploration should be encouraged. As much as I explore the environment, we get new options. Then we find the best solution, then try to apply that best solution to that agent. So getting a new initial condition is very, very important. In Q learning algorithm, Q stands for quality. Q stands for quality. It represents how useful a given action in gaining some future reward. If I do some action, whether there is a chance that I will get a reward in future, whether I might reach the goal properly or not. If I reach the goal properly, then I might get some reward. So how probable will be my action in getting a future reward? That is determined by this quality, Q term. So it is an off policy. As I said, Q learning is an off policy reinforcement learning algorithm. SARSA is an on policy. Within the policy, I try to take which action will give me high reward. Now I have an off policy. Off policy means I have many policies, many ways in which I can reach the destination. I have to choose which policy will give me high rewards or best rewards. That I need to choose. So it is an off policy reinforcement learning algorithm that seeks to find the best action to take given the current state. So here in Q learning, we try to create a Q table or a matrix will be created. So depending upon this Q table, I will show you what is this Q table, what will be the entries in the Q table in a practical example, then you will have a much more better understanding. So we try to create a Q table or a matrix. Depending upon this Q table values, the action will be decided. Same way, the table will have something like state and action. So what is the current state? What is the action being performed? So initially, we try to initialize all the values to 0. And Q values are updated and stored after every episode. Episode is something like our agent tries to do trial and error method. During the first iteration, it might go and it might have hit some obstacles. So that completes one episode. Then again, the agent, it has to come back to its original position and it has to do some other way. It has to do exploration in some other way. In that case, it might have hit some other obstacle. Then again, that is another episode. Again, the agent has to come back to the original position. Again, it might propagate. This time it might have reached the goal. So this is another episode. Again, it has to come back to the original position. Like that, we try to do multiple number of times. We try to have multiple number of episodes before identifying the proper function to be executed by the agent. So the Q table becomes a reference table for our agent to select the best action. So now I'm going to talk about a case study. So here I'm going to talk about something like a robotic environment. So I am going to have an environment. So this is the environment which I'm talking about. So initially our robot will be in this location and it has to reach the destination. Here I have a flag. Here I have a flag. So this is our destination. The robot has to reach this destination. Remember one thing, the robot doesn't know anything about the environment. It doesn't know how many obstacles are there, where are the obstacles, it doesn't know anything. So it starts with a blank mind. So it has to do exploration. It has to move in different paths. It has to find which path is more suitable for reaching to a destination. So it has to do a lot of exploration before making the final decision. So if you see here, finally, once the algorithm runs, it finds the shortest path. So this is the way it can reach this destination. There is also another way is there. So you can see here, it can go like this, it can go like this, it can come like this, it can go like this. But this here also it reaches the goal, but this is not the shortest path. So it needs to explore different options, different possibilities it needs to find. Depending upon that, all the possibilities, it has to find the appropriate solution. That is what we are going to do in this case study. So how to represent this in terms of a flow chart? So here I start. I import all the necessary packages. First, I need to create an environment. I have to create this environment. How many obstacles are there? Where are the obstacles? Where is my destination? Where is my agent location initially? So all these things, it has to be defined. So we need to create an environment. After creating an environment, I need to get the initial observation. Initial observation in the sense agent location. My robot location I need to get. Where is my, so for this example, I have taken my robot location here. Instead of this, my robot can be here. It can be here. So I need to get where is the, what is the location of my agent. That is getting the initial observation. Then I'm going to choose an action and execute it. So action can be, I can move down or towards right. Here I have only two options. Whereas if my robot is somewhere here, I can move up, bottom, left or right. I have all the four options are there. So I am going to choose an action. Which action is appropriate? Which action is good so that I can reach? For example, if I go towards right, it meets with an obstacle. So this is not the right choice. If I go down, I go to an empty block where I don't have any obstacle. I don't have a destination point also at that point. So I can take further steps. So like that, we need to take small steps and identify which is the shortest path to reach your destination. So after I choosing an action, I see whether it is collided with an obstacle. If some obstacle is there, then again I have to go back to my initial position. So here if I move towards right, obstacle is there. So I can't proceed further. So again I have to go back here to my original location. I have to go to the next option. Now I am here. If I go towards right, no problem. If I go bottom, again I am meeting with an obstacle. So again I have to go back to the original position. So this way we have to do iteration multiple number of times. So if we collide with an obstacle, get the initial observation and then proceed further. If I don't have obstacle, then I'm going to set some reward. Okay, somewhat I'm moving in the right direction. So we put some reward. Get the reward for the previous action taken and obtain the next observation. Again, I choose an action, check whether it has collided with an obstacle. If yes, again go back to the initial position. Not to the previous step, we have to go to the starting position. We should not go back to the previous position. I have to go to the starting position. Once my destination is reached, at that time I can stop the process. If the destination is not reached, then again I have to set the reward and I have to choose the action. So like that it keeps on going. So this is what we are going to see in terms of a code. How our algorithm is going to work for this operation. So here I'm going to do the programming in a Anaconda platform, Python environment. I'm going to use a Jupyter notebook for executing this code. So Jupyter notebook is something like an interactive platform where I can execute small pieces of code and I can visualize the results so that I can easily see in which part I have a problem. I can modify that part. So debugging becomes very easier. And also for explanation point of view, Jupyter notebook will be much better. So here we are going to talk about reinforcement learning using Sarsa. So first thing is we need to import all the packages required for executing this code. The first package which I'm going to execute is NumPy. NumPy is something like a numerical Python library, which is mainly used for performing some numerical operations for matrix creation, matrix operation, array operations. So like that we can make use of numerical operations can be performed using this NumPy. Then I'm going to import tkinter, which is mainly used for building our environment. It's something like a GUI, graphical user interface, where I try to create our environment using this tkinter package. Then time. Our program runs at a very faster rate. Our algorithm is going to run at a very faster rate. I want to slow it down so that I can see how the robot moves from one position to another position. I have to slow it down. So for that, we make use of this time package, importing the time. Then from PIL, I import image and image TK, which is used for importing the images, converting it into a small images so that I can put it into the environment. So we use PIL package. Sorry, this is repeated. It is not required. Then I use a pandas. Pandas is a data science or data analytics library. For doing some data analytics, we make use of this pandas library. For plotting, for visualizing the data in terms of a graph, we use matplotlib. In that I have an option called as pyplot, which we can use it for plotting. And in order to do some system operation, we use this system library package. So these are the packages which we need to install in our Anaconda data science platform. In order to run this cell, we can make use of shift plus enter key. So when I execute this, you see right now it shows star button, which means it is executing. So once it is completed, a number will be displayed. So which means this portion, this first cell is executed. So there is no problem with importing the packages. Now I'm going to define my environment. So I need to define the size for an environment. As I say, I'm going to define the pixels are going to be 40. Environment height is 9 and environment width is 9. So what we do here is essentially I create an environment with 9 rows and 9 columns. I have 9 rows and 9 columns. You can see the lines in between. So I have 9 rows and 9 columns, and each box contains 40 pixels. Each box contains 40 pixels. So that is what we define here. So I'm going to make an environment with 9 rows and 9 columns. Each box I'm going to have 40 pixels. Then I define a variable A to store the shortest route. After my algorithm runs, it will find the shortest route to reach the destination. That value I try to put it into this A variable. So right now it is defined as empty dictionary. Now I'm going to create certain functions. To build an environment, I create a function. In Python, we use def keyword for defining a function. Function is I can declare a function and I can use that function wherever I want. So we create a function with the build environment. So here I use the tk package. Previously I used tkinter. In short form, we use it as tk. Using that tk package, I have a command called as canvas, where I create a canvas. I use a background as white color. Height is environment height into pixels. Environment height is nothing but 9. So 9 into 40. So 9 into 40 is 360. Width again 9 into 40, 360. So I create an environment of 360 by 360. I create an environment of 360 by 360. Now I am going to draw the lines. So here if you see here, each row I draw a line. So I should draw some 9 lines as well as 9 column lines I should draw. So we are going to draw that lines. How we are going to do that? We use this for loops. So here this is used for drawing the grid lines. So here I take 0, environment width into pixels. Environment width is nothing but 9. 9 into 40, which is your 360. 9 into 40, 360, with an incrementation of 40. So this is starting point, this is end point, and this is incrementation value. So 0 to 360 with an incrementation of 40. So what I do, first I take 0 into column. So here I put column means 0, 0, 0, environment height is 9 into pixel is 40. So 9 into 40, it is 360. So I take 0, 0 as x0, y0, 0, 360 as x1, y1, 0, 360 as x1, y1. Using this coordinates x0, y0 and x1, y1, I draw a line using this function. Canvas underscore widget dot create underscore line. I give the 2 coordinates. x0, y0 is 0, 0. x1, y1 is 0, 360. So which means so 0, 0, then 0, 360. So this is one axis, this is another axis. So 0, 0, 0, 360. So we draw this line. Next, what we do, we increment the value 40. So 40 means now what will happen? It becomes 40, 0 and 40, 360. So here I draw a line. Next is 80, 0 and 80, 360. So like that, I try to draw this lines using this column vector. So using this for loop, we draw the column lines. Same way, we use this row to draw the row lines. Same principle. Here we just change the value. So here if you see here 0 comma row environment height into pixel. So which is first initially it will be 0 comma 0 and 360 comma 0. So 0 comma 0 0 comma 0 and 360 comma 0. So here I draw a line. Next is what we do, we move along here this side. So 0 comma 40, 360 comma 40. We draw another line. Next is 0 comma 80, 360 comma 80. So we draw another line. So like this, when we complete, we get the complete grid. That is what happens here. So we create a grid. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some small images. So here if you see, I have a lot of images. You see lot of images are there. So robot image, some bank one, building image, building flag. This is the destination which I'm going to use, some pedestrian image. So like that I have small images. This images I'm going to put it into the environment. For doing that, first I need to take those images. So image.open, I give the name road closed.jpg, put it into a variable, then convert it into an image using this tk.photo image. Image tk.photo image, so that it gets converted into a, so here when I read it, it will be in terms of a value. I want to convert it into an image and put it into the background. So for that we use this image tk.photo image, put it into this variable. So like that I try to take all the different images, tree 1, tree 2, building 1, building 2, road closed 3, traffic light, pedestrian, shop. So like that I try to take all the things and I use different variables. Obstacle 1, obstacle 2, obstacle 3. So like that I have 12 objects. Now I want to put these objects into my environment. So for that what I do, I use the canvas. Canvas is our background. In that I'm going to put an image. Where I need to put an image, I'm going to put the location. Pixel into 3. Pixel into 3 is, pixel is 40. 40 into 3, 120. Pixel into 4, 40 into 4, 160. So 120 comma 160. In that grid, I'm going to put it in the northwest location. So in the grid, I can divide it into northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast, center. So like that we can have multiple position. So here I'm going to put that object in the northwest direction. Which object I'm going to put? I'm going to put obstacle 2 underscore object. What is that obstacle 2? Obstacle 2 is tree. Tree image, I'm going to put it here in that environment. So like that, I'm going to insert our obstacles into the environment. Next is obstacle 6, obstacle 5, obstacle 2, obstacle 12. So like that, I keep on putting all the obstacles. After doing this, I have put all the obstacles. Now I have to put the destination and the location of our agent. So two things I have to do. So again, I read an image, flag.jpg. This I'm going to use it as a destination. I take it in a variable, convert it into an image, put that into a particular location. pixel into 6. So 40 into 6. Same way 40 into 6. In the northwest location, I put that flag. Same way I take the agent image, convert it into an image, and in the canvas, I'm going to put it in the 0, 0 coordinate. Initial starting point, I'm going to put my robot. So after doing this, I pack all the things in an environment. So let me execute this one. So this is regarding an environment, creation of an environment, the function to create an environment. We need to do some other operations also. So after every episode, I need to reset my robot location. For example, the robot starts moving in certain direction. If it encounters an obstacle, then I have to come back to the original location. Or if it has reached to a destination, again I have to come back to my original location. So I have to do a resetting operation. In that case, I define a function reset. Define reset. So I delete the widgets, all the icons in the canvas. Then I put my robot, self.robot, in the default location, 0, 0. We try to put that robot. Then the dictionary is in which path I have propagated earlier. That I have to initialize it to an empty value, because I'm going to start again, once again. When I start once again, I might go in a different path. So for that, we make use of this D. So D is a dictionary which takes the coordinates of the current path of the robot. Coordinates of the current path of the robot. And I is something like a key value for this dictionary. So first position, second position, third position. So I determines the position of data in the dictionary. So D defines the path, the complete path. It might have taken some 10 steps to reach the destination, or it might have taken some 2 steps before it is hitting an obstacle. That is given by D. The complete path traversal will be available in D. I will give me the key value. In the first step, what is the action taken, what is the reward? The second step, what is the action taken, what is the reward? So like that, in each step, what happens? So that both the things we try to set it to default values, because again, I'm coming back to the original position, right? I'm resetting the robot. Then while returning, we return the coordinates of the agent. So agent coordinates will be 0, 0. That will be returned. Next function which we are going to describe is step function. So step in the sense, one step I'm going to take. One step I'm going to take. So that step can be in up direction, down direction, left direction, or right direction. I have 4 operations can be done. Either my robot can move top, bottom, left, or right. Here, instead of top and bottom, I say up, down. So this, each movement will come with some rewards. So for example, here, in this function, I'm going to take a step. So first I take the location of the agent in my canvas. I take the location. What is the state of that agent? Then I define the base action as 0, 0. By default, I'm keeping it as 0, 0. So here, one thing you have to remember is the state is a 2 value. I have state of 1 and state of 0. State of 1 indicates in which row it is available, the robot is available. State 0 gives in which column it is available. So in which row the robot is there. So each position of a robot will have X and Y coordinate, right? So X coordinate is something like a row. Y coordinate is something like a column. So this x and y goes to state of 1 and state of 0. Same way, base action will also be in terms of a coordinate. If we take up direction, left, right, or bottom, anything, my xy coordinate is going to change. Xy coordinate is going to change. So my base action will also be 0 and 1. So 0 indicates column, 1 indicates row. So after getting the coordinates of the agent, after setting my base action to be 0, 0, now I'm going to see I have 4 options. One is I can move up, down, right, left. So I put it in a if statement. So if action is equal to 0 means I need to move up. Action equal to 1 means I am going to move down. Action equal to 2 means I'm going to move towards right. Action equal to 3 means I'm going to move towards left. So in action equal to 0, action equal to 0 means my row will be changed. Row value will be changed, whereas column will be same, right? If I want to move up, so for example here, if my robot is in this position, let us assume my robot is in this position. If I want to move up, if I take this one as x, this one as y, my x value remains same. If I want to move up, my x value remains the same. Only my y value changes. Only my y value changes. If I want to move down, again my x value remains same. Only y value changes. So for up and down, only my y value changes. Same way, if I want to move left or right, now y is fixed, x is going to change. Y is a fixed value, whereas x value is going to change. So only one value will change. Either a row value will change or a column value will change. So here, if my state of 1 is indicates row. If it is greater than or equal to pixels is 40. If it is greater than or equal to 40, then what I need to do, my base action will be decremented, which means I'm going to decrement the y coordinate. I'm going to decrement the y coordinate so that I go towards top. Same way, if my action is 1, I need to go down. Go down means I have to increment the y coordinate. So I increment the y coordinate here by 40 pixels. Same way for right action, what we do, we increment the pixels along row by 40 pixels. Because y is fixed. Y is fixed, only row I have to change. So base action 0 is getting modified. Same way towards left means my base action 0 will be decremented by 40 pixels so that it moves towards left. So here this defines what action we are going to do. So either 0, 1, 2 or 3. So 0 means our robot is going to move top, 1 means bottom, 2 means right, 3 means left. So once this action is identified, so this action we try to identify it from the Q table. From the SARSA table, we try to identify what action we need to perform. So if the action is identified, we do this operation. Now I need to move my agent location depending upon the action. So I take base action 0 and base action 1, x value and y value. Depending upon that, I move the agent. So agent moves to a new location. Once the agent moves to a new location, Again, I can find the coordinates of the new location. That is my next state. Right? That is the next state. So that I try to get it in the self D. So D is my dictionary where I try to store our root. I is the key for the dictionary. So in the first position, in one step, first step, it has gone to this location. So this same location, self.d, self.i, I also move it to a variable called as next state. This is the next state. And I say one entry has been updated in the dictionary. When the robot makes next step, I value will change to 2. I value will change to 3. So like that, it keeps on going. So now it starts moving. Now I'm going to check whether my next state is equal to flag. If my next state is equal to flag, means it has reached the destination. When my next state, my robot moves, it goes to a new position. If it is equal to the flag, then the destination has been reached. So I put a reward equal to 1. Okay, it has reached the destination, so reward 1. So I say done, complete. Okay, next state is go. If the next state is an obstacle instead of a flag, this if, here I have else. If it is an obstacle, if the next state is an obstacle, obstacle can be any of this thing. Obstacle 1, obstacle 2, obstacle 3, obstacle 22. It can be any of this obstacle. In that case, our robot has hit with an obstacle. So I put reward equal to -1. It is not the right direction. And we say done, means I have to go back to the initial position. I have to go back to the initial position and I say next state is obstacle. If it is not meeting with the goal flag, if my robot is not meeting with the obstacle, if it goes to an empty location, in that case, what we do, we put reward equal to 0. And we have not done with it. We have to find further path. So we give done equal to false. Once my robot reaches the destination, again I have to go back to the initial position. Same way, if the robot hits with the obstacle, I have to go to the initial position. If the robot doesn't hit, if it goes to an empty location, I have to further progress. So I put done is equal to false. Now let us see if the robot has reached the destination. In this case, I have put reward equal to 1, done equal to true, next state is true. Now my robot should not stop once it reaches the goal. Once it reaches the goal for the first time, it should not get satisfied. It should come back to its initial position and again it should do the propagation. So if it does multiple times, then it can find the best path, shortest path. So our algorithm should not stop after reaching the goal. Usually what we do, once I reach a goal, we stop our algorithm. So that should not happen here. Because again I come back to my original position, try to take a different path and try to reach the goal. So like that you try to find different options. From these different options, I need to identify which is the better solution. In order to do that, what I do is, when I reach the goal for the first time, I declare a variable C. This is initially set to true. So this will get updated only for the first time. So what I do, I take the length of D. So D is the route in which our robot has moved. I move this value to a variable called as F. So I'm considering it as a final route. When the robot reaches the destination for the first time, I take that route, put it into this final variable. Then I set C equal to false. Then I assign the same D to the longest as well as shortest, because right now I have only one path. So I put that path to both shortest and longest variable. Then I check whether my D is less than F when my algorithm runs for the second time. third time, fourth time, when it reaches the goal, I will get multiple Ds. Now I'm going to check the D with the final value. If D is smaller, which means this is a better solution, this is the shortest path. So I put D into shortest. F, I try to clear it. Then I put that D to a F. If it is the shortest. If D is the shortest when compared to the earlier saved route, I try to update the final variable. If D is longest when compared to final, we put the D to the longest variable. So that is what happens here. So once I reach a goal, I should not stop at that point. I should keep on traversing multiple number of times before I try to find a better solution. Then this function is for just update of the position, update the environment, and this function is the final. Once I complete all the episodes, so episodes in the sense multiple times my robot starts from the initial position. When it encounters an obstacle, it comes back to the original position. When it encounters a flag, it comes back to the original position. So like that, it is going to do multiple number of times, 1,000 times it is going to do. And out of that 1,000 times, we need to find the final coordinates or the location through which the robot can move so that it results in a shortest path. So that final value, we try to get it in this final function. So here I take the shortest path, print it and see, longest path, print it and see. Then I'm going to use some small oval, which is the shortest path. In that path, I'm trying to put small ovals. So here in this, you can see the blue dots. These ovals are being drawn in that environment. It indicates the robot has started from this position. It has gone through like in this way and it has reached the destination. So this I'm going to draw on that environment. That is what we do here. So we create oval and draw it on that environment using the final path. So final path is available in F. Final shortest route is available in F. Then same way, final states, I try to put it in the A variable. So now we have defined all the functions. Now I'm going to create a class for creating an environment. So I am creating an environment that I specify what are all the actions I'm going to do, up, down, left, right. How many actions? I'm going to take the length of this action space. It will take 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 actions. Just give some title. Then I create a geometry for that environment height and environment width. Then I create an environment. Initialize the dictionaries, D for each traversing path, F for storing the final route, shortest route, and I is for key, and C is used only for updation of D for the first time. Then I have two variables, longest and shortest. So here I create all the functions. Build environment, reset, step, render, final. All the functions I try to include here. So here you see I have step function, reset function. So all these functions I'm trying to embed into this class environment. I try to embed into this class environment. Now I create an environment and run the environment. So if I execute this, you see now we have created an environment. So here we have created an environment. Our agent is at this position. So these are all the obstacles and my destination is this flag part. So far we have created only the environment. We have not run our algorithm. SARSA algorithm we have not implemented. Okay, we have just created an environment. Now we are going to define our SARSA algorithm. for doing SARS algorithm, we need to define certain functions. So choosing the action, which action I should do, which action I should take. For choosing an action, we first take the current observation, current state of the robot. We first take the current state of the robot, and I need to check whether the state is available in the Q table or not. I have a Q table. In that Q table, whether that current state is there. Then if the entry is there, then only I can pick a proper action from that Q table. So I check whether that state is available in the Q table. Then I'm going to choose an action. What action I need to do, whether I have to go up, down, left, or right. So that is determined by using a parameter called as epsilon. So epsilon and gamma are two parameters which is used by our reinforcement learning algorithm to explore the environment. So we set a parameter epsilon, it's a constant value, changes between 0 to 1. So usually it will be close to 0.9. It will be about 90%. I try to do exploration. So exploration only, then I can find different possibilities. So I generate a random number. If that number is less than this epsilon, then what I do, I take a value from the Q table. From Q table, I take the action. If it is greater, if the random number generated is greater than the epsilon value, then I choose a random action. Randomly, I pick some operation, I try to perform it. So if I pick randomly and I perform it, I can do exploration much more than picking a certain action from a Q table. Q table will depend upon the rewards, low reward or high reward. If the operation has high reward, then that action will be selected. So here the exploration is minimum, whereas if I use a random choice, my exploration will be high. So this function chooses the action. Then we try to define the learning value. So how our model is going to learn depending upon the reward. Again, here also first I check whether my next state. So I have a state, action is performed. Now it goes to the next state. Now I'm going to check whether the next state is available in the Q table. If it is available in the Q table, I take the prediction. From the Q table, I try to take the prediction. Which operation is best suited? That I try to take. That is available in the Q predict. If the next state is not goal or an obstacle, then what we do, we change the reward. If it is in an empty space, I modify the reward using the discount factor. Already I have discussed about the discount factor gamma. So the reward term gets modified with the help of a gamma discount factor. If it has reached the goal or if it has hit the obstacle, we put the reward -1 or +1. Earlier we have put -1 or +1, that we try to give as it is. If it is in an empty space, then we try to define the gamma value so that the reward gets manipulated. It will neither be 1, it will neither be -1, it will be in between, depending upon our gamma constant. Then update this Q value. Update this Q value in the Q table. So this process is called as learning. So once an action is taken, we try to update the Q value depending upon the reward obtained. The reward can be +1 if it has reached the goal. The reward can be -1 if it has an obstacle. If it goes to a new location, then in that case, I need not give 1 or -1. I can give a value in between, depending upon how closer it is to the goal. So that is done by this learn function. Here, this function is used for checking whether the state is available in the Q table or not. If state is not available in the Q table, I try to introduce that state to the Q table. If the state is not available, if the state is available, no problem. If the state is not available, then we try to put that state to the Q table. So we try to put the state as well as what action has been performed here. Then this function is used for printing the Q table. I have a Q table, just to print it and see, we use this function. We use the print statements, everything. So you can see the Q table final and Q table. So Q table final is for the shortest route. What is the Q table? And for complete Q table also we can print and see. The next one is plotting the result. So here I try to plot episode versus steps. In each episode, how many steps it has taken. How many steps my robot has taken before reaching a destination or before getting obstructed by the obstacle. So that is called as an episode. So we try to plot between steps and the episodes. Same way I try to, for each episode, what is the cost function incurred? That also will be computed using this function. Plotted using this function. Now using those functions, I create a class for Sarsa table. Previously we created an environment for creating the GUI. Now our algorithm. So I define certain parameters like actions, learning rate, how much frequently I should update my Q table, reward decay. So this is nothing but the gamma value. This is nothing but the gamma value. So this reward decay and greedy are the two parameters is used by the algorithm to select either exploration or exploitation. Exploration means it will try to explore many possibilities and find the best possible solution. Exploitation means already some solution is there. That solution it tries to use it. That is all the functions here in that environment. Same way, this function is used for updating. After each step, we try to update. So here our algorithm runs. So what we do is, first we start. So remember the name Sarsa, state, action, reward, state, action. So first I take the observation. Observation is nothing but the state. Then I'm going to choose an action. Choose an action based upon the observation. Choose an action. So state, action is over. I'm choosing an action. I'm not performing an action. I'm choosing an action from the Q table. Then what I do, I perform that action. I perform that action. I get a new observation. This is the next state. Observation underscore is the next state. And what is the reward for that action? And whether it has reached done or not. Then again, I have to do action, choose the action for next state. Now I'm going to choose action for next state. That gives me action underscore. And using this, I try to update my cost function. So our algorithm runs depending upon this. So we get the observation. The next state is loaded to the current state, and next state action is loaded to the current action. So like this, it keeps on updating again and again for multiple number of steps. Then finally, we reach the end of this code. So we call the main program, run the Sarsa table, and update the environment for every 100 milliseconds. So this time period is required. Otherwise, the program will run at a very, very faster rate. So we update the program for every 100 milliseconds. So here you see our algorithm runs. So robot tries to take multiple paths So each, okay, whenever it hits with an obstacle, you can see it comes back to the original position and traverses in another path. So like that, it tries to run multiple number of times. For 1,000 times it tries to run and try to find the best solution. See, after computing, it has found the shortest path. So it has given the route to reach the destination. So here also you can see the print statements like shortest route, how many steps it has taken. 16 steps it has taken. For the longest route, it has taken 150 steps to reach the destination. And in the shortest route, the coordinates are given, 16 coordinates. At what position it has moved. First, it has started from 0, 40, 40, 40, like that it has moved on to reach the shortest thing. Same way, if you can see the Q table, for the shortest path, the Q values 0, 1, 2, and 3. This is state. This is the state, 0, 40, 40, 40. This is the state. And this is the action, 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I want to do up, this is the reward. If I want to do down, this is the reward. If I want to do right, this is the reward. Same way, if I want to do 3, left, this is the reward. So here you can see from the first entry, if I take right, then I have a high reward when compared to other things. So right will be the probable step. Same way, each and every position will have such type of entries. Depending upon this entry, an action will be chosen and it will be executed by the algorithm. So full Q table. So for all the positions, it is given here. Previously, it is given only for 16 position, shortest route. Now it is available for all the positions that we have printed. Then finally, we have this plots. Episode versus step. So for 1,000 episode we have run, you can see in each episode how many steps it has taken. In certain episodes, it has taken about 100 steps, 150 steps. In certain episode, it has taken 250. Some episode, it has gone to 400 steps. So like that, different number of steps has been taken by the robot. Same way, I have another parameter called as episode versus cost. So cost also you can see in each episode, how much it has learned. Either in the positive side or in the negative side, how much it has learned, how much it has varied. That is given. So with this, let me complete. So if you have any queries, please let me know.
Dear participants, if you have any queries, please ask sir. Dear participants, if you have any queries regarding reinforcement in SARSA, please ask sir. Okay. I hope there is no queries.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Mom.
The session was extremely more informative. It helps us gaining knowledge in the domain of machine learning, especially in reinforcement learning, sir. You have broadly covered all the concepts related with the reinforcement learning. Surely our participants have taken many valuable things from your presentation, as well as wonderfully you have done the practical session also. And from the practical session, all the participants as well as myself has learned a lot with respect to reinforcement learning in Python platform. Thanks a lot for your session, sir. It will be more helpful for the research scholars, those who are attending the program, and they can easily able to implement that one in their research proposal work. I hope so, sir. Thanks a lot for your presence, even in your busy schedule. Thank you, sir. Dear participants, we have shared the feedback form in the chat box. Feedback form is for attendance link as well as for feedback. Kindly fill the feedback form. We'll end up this session. We'll rejoin once again by 2:15 p.m. for the 9th session. Thank you.